Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Every Day is Friday Podcast 365. I'm your host, Matthew, and remember to subscribe so you can join me on this journey. Come on now, subscribe. This is where every day feels like Friday. Today, I got a special guest joining us, Clayton. Clayton is a political candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, and he is a leader in the American Congress Party. He is someone that is focused on building a peaceful, healthier, and more equal future for Americans. Clayton, thank you for being here, man. How you doing?
I'm doing excellent, Matthew. Thanks for having me. It's
Yeah,
great
how's
to be
life been
here.
treating you lately, man?
Life's great. Life's great. I think I've kind of found my spot in this place of the balance between enjoying the present moment and eagerly looking forward to the future. And so it's a beautiful place that I've gotten to in the last couple of years.
You know, Clayton, what you do, I think, is so cool. Now, for the listeners who may not be familiar with your line of work yet, can you give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I do a lot of things. I'm CEO and founder of 4 different businesses. I'm an owner and vice president of engineering and AI at Amar Social. I'm Secretary General of the American Congress Party, which is a new political party in the United States. You alluded to it as well that I ran for the U.S. House of Representatives in 2024 in PA, and we'll run again in the future. Haven't fully announced it yet. And yeah, that's kind of what I do on a day to day. I also have some aspirations and things going on in the background of what we'll be creating with like a university, stuff to replace Hollywood, stuff to replace the music industry. So so all of this to say, to put it in a nutshell, I'm here to change the world to be a little bit more harmonious, a little bit more in alignment with Dharma, and so that we can all explore our spiritual nature a little bit easier.
That's great. And, I'm from the United States as well. So thank you for doing what you're doing and trying to make change in the world.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I really want to dive into like, how did the idea for the American Congress Party first begin?
Yeah, well, depends how far back you want to go. My exposure to it was that on my podcast, I had on a kid by the name of Brandon Conceição, who's the president and the founder of American Congress Party. He founded it in 2021, and it was kind of the vision and the how do you want to say this? The purpose of creating a heaven city on earth. My exposure was is that I met Brandon. He came to my house. I flew him out for a podcast. We talked for 3 hours. It's up on YouTube, and at the end of it, he's telling me about how his goal is to create a heaven city. And my whole in like journey at this point was trying to figure out the purpose of my life. What am I doing? Where are we going? I have enough money to that I don't need to work again, but I need to do something. And he kind of, in our conversation, I was like, creating heaven sounds like a pretty noble goal. Like, I don't really have anything else going on. And so I talked with him, connected with him a bit more. He introduced me to his mentor, his guru, who is a Chola prince of or a prince of the Chola dynasty in India, who knows, let's say, the knowledge of the elite. So there's certain knowledge on this planet that they do not share with the common people. It's knowledge that my guru has been learning since he was young. And yeah, that knowledge is passing on to me, and he's kind of tasked me with giving that knowledge to the common people such that we can all explore the fabric of reality together. It's not just going to be a select group of people who get to dictate the direction that our world goes, our planet goes. And you sort of see people starting to wake up to that we've been fed a certain narrative, a certain lie about reality. We've been fed division and hatred when the reality, our base reality is love, is unity. That's our soul. And so we have a lot of confusion on this planet. And, I was introduced to that by basically asking, how do I turn Pittsburgh into a heaven city? And come to find out, we need to make the entire world a heaven planet, which was a little bit more work than I initially realized. But here we are, and that's kind of the short version of it.
Now, can you tap into that elixir a little bit? Now, what problems do you feel like the party needs to solve?
Well, the fundamental problems which we talk about are non-chemical food. we're eating poison, glyphosate, pesticides, herbicides. You're drinking atrazine. We're drinking fluoride. We're drinking all these terrible things. And I mean, that's not even what's on the food label. You dive into what's on the food label with monoglycerides, diglycerides, red 40, B2. All of these things are just poison, poison, poison. And so it deteriorates your brain. You calcify your pineal gland. It destroys your gut microbiome. You're not in tune with who you are. You're not in tune with this physical reality. So it becomes almost impossible to experience it in an objective and rational way. So we have to purify the food and water. And then the next layer to that is our medication system. Our medication industries were propped up by Rockefellers and the Rockefellers and the JP Morgans, where they got us off of homeopathy at the beginning of the 18th or 20th century in the 1900s, and they just started poisoning everything. They would take medicine out of nature. They would put it through petroleum. They'd be usually petroleum derived chemicals. And with this, everything we see increasing. If you look at the history of ADHD, of cancer, of becoming overweight, becoming disconnected, all of our mental issues, health problems, all really started in the beginning of the 1900s when we started introducing petroleum-based medicine into our systems. And since then, our medical costs in America have absolutely skyrocketed to an absurd rate. We're one of the most unhealthy countries in the world, and we're paying some of the most amount of money for it. And the third leading killer is doctors in our world. And it's just, you have to take a step back, and it's like we're taking crazy pills. And it sounds like we're being force fed them in certain situations. And so we see a way to make free medication, and it's free medication around homeopathy, around nature, because nature has everything we need. People weren't getting COVID if they were out in the sun. It's like a crazy idea that if you have vitamin D3, that you're able to somehow synthesize and destroy, negative viruses. So those are kind of the two pillars. And then the last one, which I kind of alluded to earlier, is our education system. Our education system is predicated on the Prussian model, which was also, I think, a creation of JP Morgan or the Rockefellers, where they said, look, I don't want people who can think for themselves. I want obedient workers. I want people who are going to clock in, clock out, not ask questions, go home, you take your pills, and it's this, I call it slavery education, is what we were brought up in. We're taught how to raise our hands, to go to the bathroom. And our education system, where you indoctrinate kids essentially from the ages of 5 to 18, and then sometimes 18 to 24, you're indoctrinating them that they have to follow the rules, that they don't have freedom. They don't understand these things. And you get out in the real world, and it's like, I could stop this conversation and go to the bathroom right now if I wanted to. I don't have to raise my hand and ask permission. And so it cultivates kind of like these mindless drones, if you will. I mean, people call it NPCs, which it's a side conversation. I think it dehumanizes people a little bit. But the point being is that our education system needs to be improved, where we see that by the age of 18, and I see it, that by the age of 18, you should be able to be a full functioning member of society. And I personally did not feel like I was able to function in society until maybe I was 26, where, I'm 4 years out of college. I'm teaching myself like emotional intelligence, how to connect with people, breath work, meditation, running, exercise, nutrition. I had to teach myself all of that. And I could only imagine if I was 10 years old and I had all of that information, how more powerful maybe that I would be, or more of a force of nature that I would be. And so we see that those three fundamental principles of upgrading our education system, upgrading and free education, free upgraded medication, and free non-chemical foods is like the foundation. Like those are kind of our non-negotiables, because look, if we don't have proper education, if our bodies are poisoned, if our minds are poisoned, how are we able to make any good decisions? Like I can come up with the best decision I could come up with, and I've done a good job of depoisoning myself, but there could probably be even better decisions. Have I not glyphosate in my systems, fluoride, atrazine, all of these things? And so those, again, are really the fundamental principles that we stand on.
Clayton, I'm just really want to dive into what is next for the elite that are controlling all of us. I mean, are we entering the fourth industrial revolution here?
What do you mean by fourth industrial revolution?
We have AI we have so much robots now coming in the next generation. People are losing their jobs, white collar, blue collar, to robots here in the very near future. We have the blockchain. They're going to tokenize everything. What's the next steps that they're going after for us?
Well, I think that we can make predictions about the future. I think there's a lot of things that they try to do with predictive programming, which you can look at through things like Hollywood. You can look at it through the music industry. This is kind of where the Simpsons come into play of the whole Simpsons theory. It's all predictive programming where they're trying to sow division, and so you really just look at the movies. And I mean, they play themselves out on reality. And what they're doing, and this is a little bit of indigo knowledge, what they're doing is training your subconscious mind, right? You're not thinking, you're just listening and absorbing. They call it television, tell a vision. They're telling you a vision of reality that they want you to see, that they want to see play out in the world. So you see movies like Civil War, where there's literally a civil war in America. And so what they want ultimately, I think you have to look at is the big picture. The individual items underneath the big picture can always change, but the big picture is to destroy nature. The big picture is nuclear war. That's their end goal. They believe that we are all, ugly, imperfect, uh, sort of these batteries like you would see in the Matrix, right? We're replaceable. There's nothing unique about you. You're not special. And so if you look at the big picture, their end goal is really nuclear war, which is to just destroy this planet. Because that's kind of like the eternal battle that's talked about and prophesized in every single spiritual book. And so we need that force of good, the force of Dharma to return for us to save nature, to denuclearize this planet, because there's really no point for the nuclear war, the nuclear warheads, nuclear energy, which I know is probably a little bit of a touchy subject right now, but there's no point for nuclear anything on this planet. It's a very dangerous energy to be playing with. And, so that's really the end goal. They're looking for excuses to drop a nuclear bomb. And that's what war kind of brings with it. I talked about it on my podcast back in August, whenever Trump shot the first, what was it, the first boat in Venezuela. I was like, guys, the military industrial complex, it needs war. So now we're going to try to start a war with Venezuela. Just watch. And so that's what they've been drumming up since the end of August when they shot the first drone. And so, it's once you kind of zoom out and see the bigger picture of like what the end goal is, you start learning about real history of what actually happened, not what we've been taught in the McGraw-Hill textbooks. You start to get a bigger picture of what's going on. And I think it's super important for anyone who might be afraid of the future. If you're afraid of the Illuminati, the Freemasons, any of these types of groups, if you're afraid of them, it's because you don't understand something. So the best thing that I can always say is like become knowledgeable, become so powerful of a weapon that nobody can tell you what actually didn't happen or did happen throughout our history. And so I've had conversations with many people, some of them public. There was one I did with a Zionist who started trying to just like fabricate this narrative of the history of Israel and all these things. And I can sit there confidently and say, like, that's not what happened. That's not where this went. And I'm now realizing that you're on YouTube. So I don't want to I don't want to give you too many strikes here. Hopefully it's we haven't hit that point yet, but the key here is that you should become so knowledgeable that nobody can tell you otherwise. It brings confidence, it brings certainty, it brings peace, it brings joy, it brings everything. So the best thing that anyone could really do in this modern age is become knowledgeable. And it touches to your AI point, which AI will, it's going to revolutionize the way that we do see the world and interact with it. I think we have very suspect people who are currently leading AI. And so we need true leaders, actual leaders. I'm positioning myself in that realm as well with AI, such that we're guiding it in a way where it benefits humanity, where it's, helping us to do minute tasks, mundane tasks, such that we can focus on the bigger picture. How am I able to provide for future generations? How am I able to take care of my kids? Stuff like that. And so I see that as, the bedrock of all that is become knowledgeable, become so powerful that no matter what happens, you cannot take away somebody's knowledge. So that's probably one of the sharpest swords that someone could start, wielding.
Yeah, I mean, media is so strong. I mean, how do you think media influences the way people think?
Well, it goes back to that television, right? If you're, consuming something over and over again, they're telling you how to think. They're telling you how to think. I actually did a podcast on this. I think it's an Indigo education podcast. And so if anyone's interested, you can go to travelingtoconsciousness.com/indigo education, indigo dash education. And it's all my podcasts regarding it. And I did one on the media. And if you look at it, it's the same exact tactics every single time. The play is essentially say something sensational, say something that you should be afraid of, you're fearful, and then they'll tell you the news story. They'll like kind of set you up to view the news story through a certain lens. They'll tell you the news story, and then they'll bring somebody on who reinforces it. Like these people are evil, and you can see it with everything. I mean, I don't really watch the news anymore, but I have so many people who are like, I saw that reel you had on I saw that podcast you had on the media, and they just did it, and I haven't watched the media in so long, and it just reinvigorates the truth that's in that. So they create the reality that they want you to see, and so you really have to break away from it. You have to find alternative. I don't really like them calling them alternative, but alternative, news outlets, listening to your podcast, uh, you know, being surrounded by the creators you want to be surrounded by. And even myself, when I create content, I do my best really to not tell people. I more so try to ask the questions such that it's getting people to think. I'm not going to tell you they did this person did that. I would rather have my followers be critical thinkers. I'd rather say, well, if this is true, then what would happen now? Or would this happen? And subconsciously, it is kind of breeding that intellect within them that I know they all have, but you spend enough time on your phone, you start to lose it.
No, you're leaving them breadcrumbs to lead them down maybe a rabbit hole to maybe you might not even thought about that way. Like this actually happened like this, or did that actually happen type of attitude. You never know.
Yeah, what makes more sense here?
Yeah,
We're
for
not sure.
real.
I mean, yeah.
And, history is only written by the victors.
Yeah, and yeah, that goes pretty far down where you start to think, yeah, I mean, you get into a certain place, especially if you want to talk about something like the Rothschilds with their banking cartel that they've set up around the world, and you start realizing that the same entity, let's say, has funded all the wars, at least we can verify at least since the 1700s with the Napoleonic Wars. So every single war there has been a bankers' war. It's what's created the Federal Reserve. I don't know how detailed we want to get into all this. I don't know what YouTube's going to say, but you just look at the Rothschilds, look at what they created in Europe, and look at how they controlled Napoleon, they controlled Britain, and they even did it all the way to the point where they started creating Israel. It seems like there's evidence that they even funded. I don't know if I can say it on YouTube, but let's say the people that wore red, and the guy had a funny, what is it? The Australian painter is like the meme. They funded him too. And so I think when you take a step back, I see a lot on Instagram about, you know, it's always that one group. And I'm trying to save your YouTube channel here. I don't want to get you in trouble.
I
Uh,
appreciate it.
yeah. So it's always that one group. And to me, I think that we really have to take a step back and realize there's a reason that Meta is allowing people to say these things on Instagram, because that's really where it is. And fundamentally, I see it as them trying to create more division. It's not all of any one group. And so for us to create hatred towards anyone due to skin color, race, ethnicity, gender, religious orientation, whatever it is, I feel like that's a trap that's being laid by, let's say, negative or dark spiritual yogis, whatever you want to put a button on it, Satan, whatever it is, to try to pit us against each other, to create that division, to get us into a nuclear war.
Now, Clayton, I want you to really unpack this for me. I mean, what do you believe most people like misunderstand about America's role in global conflicts?
What do they misunderstand? It's hard to know, because I think a lot of people are starting to wake up to the truth of what America is. I think for majority of our life, at least me, it was that America was the beacon of democracy, and that everyone should be like us, and that we are the shining bright North Star that everyone should aim towards. And we somehow decided to use that, and maybe it was always a part of the plan now that I think about it, but they use that as a guise to kill anyone who says otherwise. Oh, you don't believe in democracy? We'll kill you. Oh, you didn't put in a leader that we wanted you to put in? We'll kill you. We did it in Iran. We did it in Libya. We did it in Afghanistan. And all these places are worse for it. We take out their natural leader, the leader who they desire, who the people want, like in a democratic way. Specifically like Operation Ajax in Iran, it was like they had their own leader, and the CIA, installed a new one. And I think again, it goes back to that bigger picture. The United States is essentially the funding entity for the world. That's the point of the Federal Reserve, is that they fund the entire world, and they fund it through war. They fund it through the military industrial complex. It's probably like one of America's greatest exports is missiles and bombs. And so, we look at what has happened. And if you destabilize a government, there will be more evil. There will be more terrorists who it even has come out in court documents that the American government has funded. And you can even look at 2021, whenever we pulled out of Afghanistan with Biden, we left billions of dollars worth of military equipment. Oh, oops, right? Oops to the terrorists. And so to me, it's just, I don't think it's accidental. Biden wasn't in charge. Like, he mentally wasn't there. I think everyone can see that at this point. And so you have to realize, like, it's all done on purpose so that you can create more tension, more fear, more hatred. We hate X, we hate Y. And again, it serves that larger picture of creating division to get us pushed into justifying a nuclear war.
Everyone, I highly recommend going to Clayton's Instagram page down in the description down below. He dives deep into all of this information like we're talking about here today. I appreciate you being on the podcast because I want people to open their minds up a little bit more. And like, how do you encourage people to like question information without being fearful?
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it is fear is usually a lack of knowledge. Like, there's a good example of this. Alan Watts, I think it was Alan Watts. He used to teach and like held his sermons, what would you call them? Like teachings in San Francisco. And some lady came up to him and said, "Look, I'm deathly afraid of spiders. I'm so afraid of spiders. I can't even look at a picture of them. What should I do?" And Alan Watts was like, "Look, I don't know what to tell you to do. I don't know what's going to work. But what I could tell you is that usually it's from knowledge. So what you should do is you should go and find every single book in the library and read every single book about spiders until you can't read anymore. Just read, read, read 3 hours a day. See what happens." Well, I guess a few months go by and she returns and she says, "You know what, Mr. Watts, you have no idea what happened." And he's like, "What? Tell me." She's like, "I started doing what you said, and I'd read books about spiders for 2 hours every single day." And she said, "You know what? After a couple weeks, I could look at pictures of them." She was like, "After another 2 weeks, I was starting to like go to pet stores and look at them and watch videos of them." She's like, "Now I have a huge collection of spiders and I love them, and it's my favorite, insect or animal, whatever you want to say, in the entire world." And he's like, and so my point is, and I think the point from that story is just like knowledge will bring peace. I think a lot of us, and this is kind of like Gnostic teachings, if anyone wants to look into Gnosticism. And Gnosticism is kind of what I first went viral for on my TikTok, which has since been banned. But Gnostic teachings is all about divine knowledge. And the more you know, the more you experience, the more you're able to cultivate your inner understanding of the world. And they believe that there's a divine spark that lives within everybody, that divine spark being source, God, nature, we're all created from that energy. And that the more you can cultivate knowledge around that, the more you're able to understand the world, the more you're able to contend with it, and so, even the things that I talk about, I think could probably get a lot of people into a place of fear, but you hit a certain point with knowledge where you start to understand why things happen at deeper layers, at deeper levels, and you have confidence that you're not going to fall into the same trap that maybe other people did. And so, researching, all these things I'm saying, the names I'm saying on this podcast, what you can do for yourself, use me just as a reference point and then go do your own research. I know it's a tremendous amount of work, but being afraid is a tremendous amount of work as well.
Yeah, and knowledge is power. And taking action makes ideas real. at the end of the day. I always say, like, if you want to manifest anything, visualize it, take action towards it, and then you can manifest it. You got to take some action.
Yeah, that's the bedrock of it for sure.
Now, how does your party help people take action in their own lives?
That's a good question. I guess I would say that I hope it provides hope. The content that we're putting out provides hope for people that there is a solution. We don't have to fall into the trap of you have to vote Republican, you have to vote Democrat, which is a trap on its own right. You break down the numbers too of how many people actually vote. It's like 40%. And then, excuse me, and then 20% of that are people who are maybe actually passionate about that person who's running. The other 20% hate the other guy. So it's not even, they're choosing a lesser of two evils. And so you, you, you need to have at least another option. You at least need to have someone that you truly can like rally behind. It's not even about like so many people I think are becoming lost in the system because it doesn't support what they actually desire. People don't vote because they're just, I don't care. They know that it's two wings of the same bird, so they know that it's not going to make a difference, and so the way I see it is that first of all, 80%, that means 80% of the American vote is on the table. And I think that that's just one of the most energizing things in the world. And so, I think that through my podcast, I'm through the Indigo education episodes I do, hopefully it's giving people another way to things to try out, new ideas to explore, such that they can find peace in their life, such that they can experience the world just a little bit more pure every single day. And so I guess that's how I would say that I encourage it in a way. I think everyone kind of has their own path and they find they find everything along the route as they need to find it. And so I guess I I guess I don't really necessarily think about it in terms of encouraging people to do stuff. I guess I just believe that over time, the inner eye of all of us will start to slowly open and we'll start to slowly see more and more of the truth, more and more of who the true leaders are within our communities. And I think just naturally people will want to get on board whenever they care about the future of their children, the future of this planet, and so I guess that's kind of the way that I see it is that I'm just here to, give the knowledge that my guru gave to me and let people, make their own choices within that.
I'm actually kind of curious what's sparked your like courage because I mean, who are some people that actually inspired you to step into leadership?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, I mean, first of all, I got to give a shout out to my parents. My mom and dad, they've seen me make some of the craziest decisions of my life. And they both come from very conservative, old time families. So for me to make a lot of decisions that I've made and for them to just be like, well, it's your life. I have to first say that I've been beyond blessed to have that support system because I know that that is a blessing in so many ways. First of all, to have a loving, supportive family, and then also more so just to have a family in the first place. I know a lot of people are from broken homes. So I'm very blessed in those regards. Then moving along, I think, interestingly, someone who inspired me to start my podcast was Joe Rogan, because I thought that it was just so cool that you could sit down with someone for 2, 3 hours and just get to know them, to see their worldview. And, I see your podcast, you've done so many where it's truly a beautiful thing to do. I'm sure your knowledge, your growth has tremendously exploded because of it. And so, for me, that was huge. And that was kind of the starting point for my podcast was let me just do long form podcasts with people. It's changed since then. I do long form every now and then. But I think that was like kind of like a big outside inspiration. I would say talking with Brandon on my podcast was probably another big pivotal moment in my life of, oh, okay, like this is something I need to do. This is something that's important. And then of course my mentor, my guru, he really laid it out for me that we need leaders. He was like, he kind of maybe he gave me the confidence. I don't know, but he was the one who initially said, "Look, he said, run for elected office in Pittsburgh." And I was like, how is that supposed to help? Because at the time, I was like in the spiritual hole of, power's not important. Politics are all evil. Money's all evil. That shouldn't be the purpose of life. And I approached it with him of like, I want to create heaven on earth. And he kind of pointed out, look, there's two different types of power on this planet. Primarily, there's more, but the two big ones are political power and monetary power. And it really clicked with me because you look at what happened in 2020 with a certain event. They told everyone what to do. You had to stay inside your house. You had to put a foreign body inside your body, a, metallic item, liquid inside your body. And everyone just did it. Like that's political power, and you have to use it for good. Power is, well, and then the monetary one is you could look at someone like Elon Musk, where he's creating an entire city in Texas for his Starship. And that's just, I mean, no, how do you start a city, right? Like I think just that alone is so crazy. But again, power is just power, and you need to find a way to abstract yourself out of, well, money's evil, money's the root of all evil, politics are all evil, and when reality is that power or evil has corrupted those institutions, those items, and there are ways to use it in a divine way where we can use power to create peace, to create harmony. These things that I talked about at the beginning of the podcast, if I'm not in a position of political power, you can't really do much of that. You could try to start a business, but then you're going to be handicapped at how much you can do because there's going to be a political institution that, may or may not find the little things that are wrong with your business, and they may take you to court and you might lose money. So you need to become powerful if you really want to be able to contend with this world. And in order to do so, the two big ones would be political power and monetary power. And we need to find a way to take a step back and realize that power can be good or evil. It depends on how you use it. It's just like a sword, it's like any tool. And there's endless examples of that. But that would be, to kind of put it in like a nice tidy bow, kind of what motivated me to kind of get involved with politics to begin with.
Yeah, Clayton, I realize that, like, inner growth always often changes your outer actions with outer actions. Um, you took a step forward, in your life to do that. I mean, how has your spiritual, like, journey influenced your politics?
It's a good question. I've tried my best to not advocate for policies based on the way that I spiritually see the world. But it does influence it in the sense that I believe that our divine mission is to support nature, is to support the next generation. And I think that there's a lot to be said there with my spiritual beliefs behind the scenes. I mean, I'm happy to talk about them, but from a political standpoint, I don't believe I advocate for anything if I don't see the physical reason for it. And I actually just released a podcast today talking about lethal injection, where, well, physician assisted suicide is what it's called. And to me, I talked about it in the podcast, like kind of in this like kind of obscure way because, my spiritual beliefs is that that's very evil, that we should absolutely not be doing it. I think that that is a fundamental issue. We could go into it, but I think from a spiritual place that it is absolutely evil. But the question becomes is, do you make a political decision based on that? And I kind of try to figure it out in that podcast as I'm kind of talking to myself. But the honest answer is I'm not 100% sure. I think that it's evil, and if I had a vote today, I would vote no. But again, I need the civil discourse to truly find out, why I think it's evil. What is that? Like, what is the physics? Like, it's just my intuition. And I do believe there are times to make decisions based off your intuition. But if you're going to sit there as a politician and create policy, you need to have something concrete. You need to have something physical world, in my opinion, to advocate for it. And so it's just my intuition, it's my spiritual beliefs that I see that as being pure evil, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we 100% need to make a law against it, but we need to have the conversation of why I see it as evil. I need to talk to other people and kind of validate or invalidate my internal belief system with regards to that. And so it really drives me in that way where it's like, okay, does this support life? Are we supporting life by killing people? And I mean, people will argue that it's humane, it's this, and I just, to me, that's a hard one to sell. So you got to convince me that, you're supporting life by killing people. And so, um, I think the spiritual nature, it sets the foundation. It sets that fundamental foundation of, okay, they're trying to create war to destroy nature. We need to save nature. And what does that look like on the physical layer? I mean, it's super easy for us to point to historical things with our medical institutions, our food institutions, our education institutions. So those are no brainers for me, right? You can see the poisoning, evil. That's like a no brainer. And so I really try to stick to very common sense policies like that are my bedrock. But meanwhile, staying flexible to maybe new ideas that I internally have either a good or negatively charged pull towards, because it's, as a politician, you're leading the masses, you're being the leader, the voice for them. And so if you're not listening to them, then, who are you really leading?
Yeah, I mean, how does your party bring people together instead of dividing them?
Well, I think a lot of it's in the language of how we speak about things. And I think psychologically, there's a lot of ideas and narratives that we just kind of go with. It just feels right. It feels good. And you just kind of go with it. And so I guess it really starts off from how we speak to other people, how we speak to you, how I speak to my team, how I speak to my employees, all of these things. And it's realizing that, and I think psychologically, the proper way to look at it is that we're one giant family. There's no other way to cut it. Maybe we say this, and what's crazy about it, right? This is the physical example of this, is that we say this in our everyday language. Hey, bro. Hey, brother. Oh, she's like a sister to me. Oh, he's the father I never had. Wow, she's just like a mom. Oh, that's like my aunt. Oh, hey, what's up, cuz? What's up, cousin? And so I think we know this at a soul level that we're one family. And if you walk around, I always give people this thing to test out, is that if you walk around your neighborhood, downtown, wherever, every single person you will run into, you'll feel a familial connection to. Maybe it's your brother, sister, girlfriend, wife, mother, whatever it might be, brothers, father. And so that exists, but we've been severed from that connection. We've been severed from that unifying force, right? It's why the tree is like one of the most spiritual images, right? Is that we're all like connected at the trunk, and we just kind of divvied off into these leaves, and we experience this illusion of separation. And so just realizing that we're one family, and, if this was my brother, how would I want to treat them? Okay, like looking at any political event, like, do we really want to divide further? No, should we really cut off that limb and just kind of destroy it? And I see it as just like everything that gets put out there, Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals, it's all dividing that tree up, cutting it into tinier, tinier pieces, when we need to start growing it. We need to start fostering that internal spark, if you will, that lives within inside all of us. And remember that we are one family.
I asked you that question because there is such a big divide in this country. And I don't know if it's been within the last couple years that it's been happening like this, but it's been like that in my lifetime. And what gives you hope, for the future of this country?
I think that I see more and more people waking up. I think there's more knowledge and there's more ideas that we need to come forth for us to get there. But what gives me personal hope is the progress that, and it's a little bit of a selfish answer, but I think it's kind of the only way to answer this, which is that I've seen the progression in my life of making my life better, which has made the community around me better, which has made the state that I'm living in better, which makes the country I'm living in better. And so I think that we can get into a place of despair when we're not making progress in our own lives. But for me to see the progress I'm making in my life, and it gets reflected, of course, monetarily, you see it on the physical layer, but just internally, I walk around and I see making connections with certain people. You make someone's day a little bit better. And it tells me that the light hasn't fully gone out in people. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that as long as, and I can't control other people, but as long as I continuously to improve my life, I feel as though that signals that there's hope for other people to improve their life. And it just has that ripple effect.
Yeah, I love that, because that's how it's supposed to be, and, I mean, you never know. You never know who you're gonna come across if you never put yourself in any type of situation like that, and, if you don't step into being uncomfortable, you'll never understand how to grow at the end of the day.
Yeah, being comfortable will hamstring you. It'll or hamstring you. I think that's the phrase. It'll cut you off at the knees. You got to learn to be uncomfortable and enjoy it. I mean, that's kind of one of the biggest spiritual lessons that really kickstarted me was the book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Have you come across that before?
I have not.
100% recommend it. The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, and it's all about just the present moment. If your mind's in the future or the past, you'll create fear, anxiety. It's really the past and future are constructs of our mind. They don't exist. They never existed. We don't want to go too deep down that rabbit hole, but the point being is that you have to enjoy this present moment. You're going to feel all the emotions. You're going to feel fear. You're going to feel stress. You're going to feel happiness. You're going to feel joy. All of them are fleeting. Can you enjoy feeling whatever emotion is that you're experiencing in this moment? Can you enjoy the problems that are arising in this moment? And what I've seen arise in my life is that the more I'm able to enjoy the present moment, the more I'm able to enjoy the problems that come to me. On the other end of it, something I am somehow rewarded by the universe with more responsibility. It's the best way I can describe it. Stress at work, someone's causing problems. Okay, enjoy it. Enjoy the process, see what happens. You solve that problem, and then there's a paycheck afterwards, something like that. Or they're having problems with social media. You enjoy the problem, and then you get another 10,000 followers. So I believe that there's something to be said for you are somehow rewarded the more you're able to enjoy the present moment. I don't know how I can fully articulate that, but it's something that kind of you need to experience on your own. Is the next time you're in an argument with a loved one, you're fighting about something, you're stressed at work, just enjoy it. Enjoy the energies. What you're an infinite being enjoying this exact moment in the history of everything. You'll never experience it again. So why not enjoy it? And to me, I've seen that bring with it. The more I enjoy, the more responsibility that I have been given by source, nature, spirit, God, Allah, whatever you want to call it, to carry out my dharma, carry out my mission here on earth.
I love that because I've always said to know thyself and, know to feel, be in the present, to be in the moment. That's what it's all about. Feel all the emotions that are going through you. That's the beauty of life.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think this comment usually gets me into trouble sometimes, but it's, my experience and I encourage people to do it. But there's like a difference between seeing the emotions, realizing they exist, and connecting to them. So when you connect to the emotion, that's whenever problems will happen. That's whenever problems will arise in your life. But if you can just enjoy the emotions as if it's a passing car or a cloud in the sky, then you're able to, in a way, transcend the emotions. You're able to see a bigger picture. You're able to make more rational decisions. And I think an issue, again, if you have poisoned food, you have improper education, you're on SSRIs, you're numbed out, you don't have that. It's hard for the mind to do that. It's hard for your mind and body to acknowledge it in such a way. And so the more that we're able to become aware of that, aware of the emotions that we're experiencing, stay away from connecting it, you'll see tremendous growth in your life very quickly.
Now, Clayton, what do you want people to understand most about the American Congress Party?
Gosh, maybe in one sentence is that we're trying to create heaven on earth. Yeah, I don't I don't there's kind of that's it, is like we're trying to create heaven on earth, and in order to do that, we need to empower the individual. The only way to empower the individual is to make them healthy, psychologically and physically. You need proper knowledge, you need proper food. And when it comes time for medication, you need proper medication. Nature has everything we need. And we're really here to support nature. Like, I think something that we sort of all agree upon within the American Congress Party is that, when you get into a conversation, a spiritual conversation about God, about spirit, about Allah, about insert whatever word you use for it, it becomes abstract and it's not concrete. And so I think a big question you have to ask yourself is like, what is that physical world manifestation of the infinite oneness that we're all connected to? And the physical representation that I see is nature. It's the earth we're standing on. It's the air we're breathing. You and I, whether we like it or not, we're breathing the same air. The ground we're standing on, it's all connected at the roots. You've seen like mycelium networks, maybe if you've seen those videos. Fantastic Fungi talks about mycelium networks. It's the air we're breathing, the land we're standing on. You spray glyphosate in Utah. That poison will, it poisons an insect. That bird eats the insect. It takes it over here, and so the sun we share, we're all, using the same energy from the same sun. So, I see nature as maybe the physical manifestation of that oneness that connects us all. And again, that would be comes back to, evil wants to destroy nature. And those who are here to restore nature, to restore Dharma, want to protect nature, want to protect the one unifying force that connects all of us.
I love that. You always got to have balance, the good and the bad, the yin and the yang. And I always tell people your body is a temple, mind, body, and spirit. And you are what you eat. As in, some people don't like when I say that, but you you kind of eat like whatever knowledge that's coming towards you, and you're taking it in on the news, the media's given to you. You're taking that in, and you're gonna take that with you. And if you're eating flaming Cheetos every day, how you think you're gonna feel? You got to really
Not
think
good.
about stuff like that. What is this stuff made out of? Campbell's soup. You never know. Yeah. What kind of legacy do you want to leave through this work?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know that it's up to me. I think that I guess I try not to think about myself in that way. I see it more as like, what's my purpose here on earth to leave the world better than what I found it? And who knows? I think the way that we remember history continuously gets changed. And so that continuously changes legacies. It depends on how you describe things. And so I guess if I were to say something that I hoped people would remember is that I did the best I could, given the limited knowledge and information that I have, to leave the world a better place. That, you know, lead with my inner eye, lead with my heart, hopefully a connector, someone who connects people, but inspire people to become better than who they are, because I think that's the ultimate goal of life. And if you don't have a direction, you can very quickly fall into pit and despair and anger and all those things. And so, yeah, hopefully something along those lines, but I guess it's not something I really try to focus on too much, because, again, stay present.
Yep, stay present is right,
Yeah.
and your mind has to be stronger than your feelings at all times, and it's life. That's the beauty
Yeah.
of it,
And it's not really something I can control either, right? I can't control how people remember me. Only thing I can control is my actions in this moment. And so, yeah, I kind of just break it down moment by moment. I get asked questions all the time from like family members, like, "Oh, how was your day? What did you do today?" And I'm just like, I kind of don't remember. It's so much, but at the same time, it's like I'm just enjoying every single moment, following what needs to happen. And so, when you ask me if I'm asked, what did I do today? It takes me out of the present moment. And so, I've tried to train myself so much where I'm not even like it's hard to access the past in a way. But there's pros and cons to that. But that's maybe a deeper conversation.
I know exactly what you mean because sometimes I come home from work and my dad's asking me, "What'd you do today?" It's like, I just got done with what I was doing, and you think I wanna come home and explain what I just did over there? It's like, "Oh,
You want me to
man,"
think about
like,
that?
can I
Yeah,
just say I had a good day, I
yeah,
always tell people this because a lot of people out there, they always ask you like, "Oh," they always go, "How you doing?" How stuff like that. I'm always saying, "I'm doing wonderful. No matter what, I'm doing wonderful," because a lot of people, "Oh, I'm doing good." Same response every time. And,
yeah.
I always say, "I'm doing wonderful," and they're like, "Oh, that's something a little bit more, cheerful?"
You spread it too. Happiness, a smile's infectious. If you walk around with a smile on your face versus kind of like, what is it? RB, I don't want to say the actual words, but RBF, it's like the entire world will interact with you differently.
100%. And you only get so many summers in a lifetime. I'm gonna challenge everyone that's listening right now to go take action. Go chase after your dreams because your dreams will not chase after you. And Clayton, I really want to ask you, if someone is curious about like getting involved, how can they reach out?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say go to AmericanCongressParty.com if that's what you're feeling called to. Check us out a bit more. There's a contact button. You can sign up for newsletters. If you're still kind of on the fence, I would highly recommend my podcast, Traveling to Consciousness. It's kind of transformed a little bit where I talk like the current events, my opinion on the current events, because, I know it can be a lot to watch news every single day. So I try to do it once a week. Then I try to distill my Indigo knowledge. If you want more Indigo education, that's going to be on my website at travelingtoconsciousness.com. And there'll be an Indigo education tab so that you can have all the beautiful podcasts at your fingertips, and just try them. Try something new. If your life's not working or heading in the right direction, or you're upset, you're angry, try the things I talk about in there. Shift your mental mind, your mental focus to something different, and see what happens.
Yeah, and everything he just spoke of will be in the description down below. Go check him out. And this is the Friday mindset part of the show. I want to dig into your journey, your mindset, and the moments that have shaped you. Now, what has been the best piece of advice you ever received?
I mean, we talked about it already, but enjoy the present moment. I mean, this moment you never get back, and there's always a new one. So whether physically you're observing tragedy or beauty, enjoy it either way, because you can look at it as a test. There's positive ways to look at it, but I think if you're not enjoying the present moment, you're not going to enjoy the future. And that was something big realization I had whenever I was kind of like, I had all these metrics set out for myself with money of once I hit this amount. Once you hit a certain number, you start to realize it's a trap. And I started hearing billionaires saying over and over again, I would trade all my money to be 20 again. I would trade all my money to be 20 again. And you try to dissect that, and what I think is it's an example of is that they weren't enjoying being 20 and broke. They were focused too much on becoming a billionaire. And the trajectory of my life, the way the numbers are crunching out, at some point I'll be a billionaire in my life, but I won't want to be 30 again or 31 again because I was enjoying being 31. I'm enjoying this process of building. I'm enjoying it. And so there will be different problems as of course, whenever I don't know, maybe a billionaire at whatever it is, 50 or 60, maybe sooner. I don't know. It's up to nature, up to a higher power. But you have to enjoy this present moment because if you don't enjoy now, if you don't enjoy being poor, you won't enjoy then. You won't enjoy it whenever you're rich. So enjoy everything that's happening in your life right now.
I resonate with that because, it's all about the journey, not the destination, but the personal development throughout the journey for me.
Yeah, and I mean it's very it takes away a lot of pressure and it happens a lot quicker too. Because whenever I was, I think 26, 27, trying to figure out the world, I think my net worth was probably around like 250K. And I got to a point where that was when I realized like more money isn't going to bring me more happiness. Like it hasn't been. And, over shifting that mental model, I'm now, 31. I'm enjoying every moment. And somehow, I don't even know how, but I'm a millionaire at this point. And so to me, it kind of just doesn't make sense. I'm just enjoying it, and it's like even the struggles. And I think that's the key is people get too connected to the struggles. They personalize them as opposed to like zooming out and just being like, oh, it's just, something that kind of happens. And I know that's a privileged way to put it, but if you can adopt that mindset, if you're able to step into it, you'll become a force of power in this world.
I'm gonna bounce off of that. The show is called Every Day is Friday, and Friday is a special energy. As you know, you feel it. Whether it's like freedom, excitement, or just like feeling of accomplishment after a long week. I want to hear from you. What does Friday mean to you?
Well, to me, not much anymore. I forget what day of the week it is sometimes. I need I need my secretary to remind me sometimes, or it takes me a second to be like, wait, what day is it again? Because yeah, but I do agree. I guess I would say I do agree with you fundamentally that there is different energy on weekends versus Friday versus Mondays. Um, I mean, I can't articulate what that is, but I think as people kind of go through that process of purifying their body, purifying their mind, you'll be able to feel those subtle things. I mean, most people probably feel it already. But if I get back to your kind of original question, everyone enjoys Friday. You enjoy Saturday. And then Sunday, the Sunday scaries. Oh no, it's Monday. Oh no, it's Tuesday. You get into that psychological trap. And so you have to be very careful of the words and the knowledge that you're bringing into your mind. So if you are psychologically putting yourself where every day's Friday, every day's Saturday, no matter what happens, that's like the prime spot. That's where you kind of want to be. And, it'll transform your life once you become highly aware of the thoughts and words that you're allowing enter your mind.
Yeah, Every Day is Friday is about bringing that energy into your everyday life. And I think you understand it. I do the same thing as you. I work every single day, 365 days a year. So I
Yeah.
understand it.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and especially if you're constantly saying that every day's Friday, that repetition will leak into your subconscious, and then you're just enjoying every single day. There's no difference now between work and play. I even had a conversation with my sister kind of about this recently, where she was like, like, how much do you work? And I'm like, I'm always working, and she was like, no, like billable hours. She was kind of like she was trying to get down to a specific number, but the point is though, is that it's all play, it's all fun. You got to enjoy it. And I again know that it's so much easier said than done, but once you start psychologically catching yourself when you're saying, "Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do that? I don't want to do this. I hate doing that. I hate doing this." If you can reframe it in your mind to, "I love doing this. I love recording podcasts. I love making money. I love every Monday," you'll very quickly, it happens very quickly, by the way. It depends on how diligent you are on it. But it happens very quickly where you'll see a tremendous shift in your life the more you're able to come in tune with the things you keep telling yourself you don't like.
I always say have gratitude for everything that's in your life and everything you've been given and everything that's going towards and everything. Gratitude is such a big thing that a lot of people don't even use nowadays.
Yeah, that's a good point. Be grateful for the good and the bad.
I really want to ask you this question because it's something that's been top of my head for a while here on this podcast. What does freedom truly mean to you as an American today?
Well, as an American, oh gosh, what does freedom mean?
It looks different to everyone.
Well, I guess true freedom, I would say, is being able to pursue happiness. And we kind of say that, the pursuit of happiness. But I think that the system that America has set up does not allow us to pursue happiness. We're set up like a corporation. We're not set up like a, a, a country that wants its civilians to pursue happiness. And so American freedom, I would say, is a lot different than freedom. I guess I would like American freedom. I would like American freedom to get to that point where the question, you're able to maybe experience the world how we experience it, where you wake up every day, you're happy, you could do work, you could not do work. It's really your choice and you love the present moment. But whenever you talk about American freedom, that's where things start to get a little ugly because we run into a huge issue where our tax dollars are being wasted. We're, charged for everything. You buy something, you sell something, you die, uh, anything. You're losing money, and I think there's a psychological prison that has been created around money, maybe more so in America. I mean, the entire world, I think, is caught by it. But people are, in sense, a slave to money. It's important. Don't get me wrong. Money's very important to survive. But if that is the only thing you're thinking about, then you have fundamentally become a slave to money. And so I think there's a lot of psychological prisons. I think this is what Kanye West was talking about a lot, where, he would talk about how we're still in psychological prisons, how, you still have to go to work from 8 to 5 every single day. You still have to, get up. You still have to go. You still have to clock in. You have to clock out. Again, very similar to our school system. And so I think that whether it did or didn't start as a good idea, the way America has transformed is we've kind of, this might be a little bit of a crazy statement, but I feel like we really, the common people never truly got off the plantation. I think that the lack of knowledge, the poisoning of our food, the psychological conditioning of the news to continuously be in fear, it keeps you in a psychological trap. You're in a psychological prison. Now, physical world, you can do whatever you want, right? But psychologically, it will block you from doing anything you want. So, yes, physical layer, you're free, but psychologically, we're still in a prison. And so I look forward to the day where myself, the American Congress Party, becoming president, am able to free, the the psychology of the American people.
You know, I was really thinking about it because the history of America. I mean, what part of American history do you think like most people don't know but should?
Well, there's a lot. I would say number one is probably what we talked about a little bit, like the 1900s, the influence of the Rockefellers, the influence of the Rothschilds, the Warburgers, the influence that they had over creating the Federal Reserve in 1917, the way they did it, understanding the meeting that happened on Jekyll Island to create the Federal Reserve, understanding how the Federal Reserve isn't federal, nor is it a reserve, right? Because we're talking about how people are controlled by money. But if you realize that the money is just printed out of thin air, it'll change your psychology a lot. Understanding how and why our government will bail out large institutions and not bail out the American people. I think understanding that, understanding the history of our medical institutions, how they have become politicized since the beginning in the 1900s, how homeopathy used to be the way, and now look at pictures between the 60s and today. We're overweight. It's becoming a travesty. It's very sad. So I would say if the biggest things that impact us in the present day, and that'll give you your jumping off point, would be things like the Federal Reserve, with the Rothschilds and Warburgers and Jekyll Island. And then I would also say the problems that were created by the Rockefellers with our education system and with our medical institutions. If you pull that thread, you'll become a member of the American Congress Party very quickly.
You know, I have this question for you. What's your perspective on the moon landing?
Uh, let's see here. We've been to the moon, but the video is fake.
You know, so many people have a running debate over that.
I mean, there's another argument here of like, how much does it really matter? Like, we got bigger problems here on Earth. Why are we worried about the moon? But I do believe that we have gone to the moon. We've gone to it many times. It's not anything new. But I think that there's tons of video evidence and even NASA in general where there's very botched video of them saying they're in space. And, there's a lot of evidence of them creating fake videos of being in space. So it creates a lot of distrust with NASA. But yeah, I mean, fundamentally, the moon landing, I think that there's a lot of issues with the moon landing and how it's, from a physics standpoint. So, yeah, my fundamental belief is that yes, we have been to the moon. We were probably there before 19, what was it, 69? We were there before 1969. And I think the video was probably just propaganda used during the Cold War, would be my fundamental belief, especially with and again, this is kind of just intuition. I don't think there's really any hard evidence that would support that. That's kind of just, what I know from video cameras, what I know from technology, what I know from physics. So that's kind of like my fundamental belief, I guess, around that.
I know the listeners got a lot of great value out of this. It's been an awesome conversation. And everyone out there, do your own research. Go hit the link down below. Go to Clayton's. All his information is down there. Go follow him, support his work. And that's a wrap for this episode. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew. I appreciate what you're doing and keep talking to people. I think that's the way the world moves forward, is that we got to keep talking to people. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Matthew, you're definitely on a great path. And yeah, excited to see where you go from here.
I appreciate that. And to everyone listening, stay tuned for more amazing stories on Every Day is Friday Podcast 365. If you enjoyed this, make sure you follow, share, and keep that Every Day is Friday mindset going. Stay inspired and make every day feel like Friday. Until next time, everybody.